Secret fact about Noah that I found out when I met him at the ETH Denver is he's like ridiculously tall. So that I forgot.
He looks very tall.
No, okay. Well, I didn't anticipate this. I was like, "What the heck? What's going on, Noah? What are you doing out there?"
I'm just 6'3". That's somewhat normal. That's not like That's not like I'm a giant.
Okay, well, I'm 6 foot and I'm not used to like looking up to people, but like you're just like way taller than you look. Like you actually look short on video. Was my like I guess it was in my brain. In my brain, I'm like, this guy.
I got a short face.
Got a short face, I guess. Welcome to the Never Die Podcast, your weekly alpha for those who never quit. This is the Stay Hard semi-weekly update. Crypto is rough out there, and we teach you how to stay hard and make it through a life.
We'll help you stay hard. We'll help you stay hard.
We'll help you stay hard. All right, let's start off with prices for the week. So right now, Bitcoin and ETH, I think they're just like, I don't even know what they're at. Do you guys know what the price of Bitcoin and ETH at? It's like, ETH's like
63,600 for Bitcoin right now. ETH's at 3,115.
Okay, so it's like we've been in this kind of little dip period, and that's what we're going to start out talking about. Is like we had this huge run up where the market went nuts, and basically from like Christmas through like early 2024, and then everything just kind of collapsed down. And so I just want to get like your guys' takes on. What do you think's going on right now? Do you think this is like really bad? Like we're ending the bull market's over. It's over. We had this little run up and that was it. Or do you think this is normal? What are your guys' thoughts? I guess we'll start with you, Noah, since this is your first time on the Stay Hard weekly update.
It's hard to say. You hear lots of takes from different sides, from different people. Like the fear and greed index is at 70 right now. So we're still more on that greed side still. So it's not like we're all of a sudden back into a bear market or anything like that, I don't think. I've looked at past cycles, and it's actually normal for us to have like a 30% drawdown, in the bull market. And that's kind of what we've done. I don't think we've even got to a 30%. I think we're more at like 25% that it's gone down. So it's not like all hope is lost or anything. I think we're just maybe going to go sideways for a little while. That's how I kind of see it. But it's like, I think a lot of why we went down is because of macro stuff. There's like war, there's fighting, there's all these different things. So it's kind of complex, and it's like hard to know exactly why we've kind of gone down. But I'm still like feeling like we're going to go out higher in the next year or so. It's just maybe we have some kind of stormy weather till then is how I'm kind of feeling.
I'm in the same boat. So like, in my opinion, we're right on track. This is very, very normal behavior for this stage of the cycle. I think the reason everyone is like making a big deal out of it is because they felt like the cycle was accelerated because we hit all-time highs earlier than they anticipated. And it just seems so obvious to me. Like we had a bunch of inflows from the ETF. It pushed things higher than you would normally go because you have all this institutional capital coming in, but that doesn't really change the overall trajectory of the cycle. It doesn't change the overall sentiment, and it doesn't change like when retail is going to get involved. There's just like certain kind of patterns and timings with the psychology of the way the market works, in that like retail just needs a certain like long period of time seeing the crypto markets perform before they're going to be willing to dip their toes back in because they got burned really hard last cycle. And that's my view too, is it's just like some sideways action from here. I really don't think we're going a lot lower. I think some people have been saying like, we're going back down to 30,000 Bitcoin. And I mean, I guess I wouldn't like lose my mind if that happened, but I just don't see that happening. I think we're probably just going to kind of like chop sideways from here. Maybe we'll have like a little summer rally. But I'm anticipating the action to happen in the last half of 2024 and then going into 2025. But I want to hear what's your take, Harley. What is your beard saying?
Beard says a lot. It does a lot of thinking too. No, I still think it is a bit accelerated. I think this lull after such a run up can feel like a lot. But I do like when you look at the onboarding of like institutions, right? And you talk about the process of it. A lot of the arguments have been made that like this is just step one of it. Right, is the ETF, and then getting that ETF into other portfolios is a longer process. So I think if you keep seeing that unfolding alongside like the drop in supply, putting us under like the 1% inflation rate, I think you could still see the acceleration. But we did see choppiness after, like, we went from like 15K to basically like 25, 30K, and it just stayed there for like 5 months, right? Until it just basically doubled again to where we're at now. So I think you could still see it maybe a couple months earlier than you do, but I think in the summer you're going to see it running up just because of the supply crunch.
Yeah. So it sounds like we kind of all agree that the market's not over here. Obviously, that's just a silly. The only reason I said that is because like there is a weird batch of the market that believes that. They're like weird. I don't understand why they would think that. It's like
what's the weird? Like they were going down to 30?
Yeah, or they think it's over. They think literally there's like a batch of the market that like thinks that the bull market's done.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that too. People are like, well, because you're getting like the macro sentiment shifting, right? Where like the Fed's coming out a bit more hawkish than people thought. So I think people are just that's how it goes, right? People ignore the fact that we're in the 60s because like the recency bias is insane in crypto. So they're just like, the party's over. Like, I'm not getting any more dopamine. It's all just floating around. It's over. Party's over. But it couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, it's funny because I've also seen people say that this is actually a sign that we're like going to keep going. Kind of the idea that like if everyone's like just like peak euphoria and like just putting money into random different things that aren't valuable, that's like a more true sign that like, all right, things are actually about to be over because people are just doing dumb stuff with their money. And so kind of when people are hawkish, it's kind of this idea that like, all right, we're still being careful. It's not like everyone's just going to sell off now because they're kind of actually a little worried. And so that means that we have farther up to go is some take I've seen. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. That's a really good point, which is that, you would know it's the top by not everyone saying, hey, it's the top, but by the opposite. Everyone would be saying we're going way higher. Because at an actual top, I've made this point many times, but I'll say it again, like structurally, there's a reason we collapse, and it has to do with the market getting really unhealthy, a ton of leverage in the market, and everyone's like euphoric thinking it's just going to keep going higher for forever. And when people get to that stage, they do stupid stuff, and that's what makes the market unhealthy. And so without that, the market's healthy and it's just not going to collapse like that. It just doesn't do that except for when the market gets really unhealthy. And so we're just not seeing that. And the fact that everyone's bearish just shows you like we have not reached the top, and we're not even close, not even like kind of close. Like the biggest gains, the most insane gains, especially in altcoins, are ahead of us. And it's going to be crazy. You're not going to understand it. You can't anticipate it. There are tokens right now that are going to go up 1,000x that are like good, decent projects that are just sitting there. You could buy, I don't know what it is, but you could go buy it right now. I guarantee you, like a year and a half from now, right, whatever, you're going to be able to look back and be like, man, if I'd only bought, Wing Wong coin or whatever, like that whatever it's called, you could have made 1,000x. And so there's so many opportunities. There's a huge amount of opportunity ahead of us. I did want to point out something though that I think a lot of people thought that it was the top, like because they saw this weird false flag in like meme coins skyrocketing, and usually it's like the stages of the crypto market are like crypto winter, crypto spring, crypto summer, and then in crypto fall we have like the Ponzi's go crazy, meme coins, Ponzi's, all the just garbage of the market goes nuts, and it works, and everyone's making a ton of money, and we just happen to see meme coins pop off. I want to know, what are your guys' theories as to why that happened? Because I actually have a pretty solid theory as to why I think it happened and why I think it doesn't matter, and it is not a top indicator at all.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not like the best gauge of meme coins. Like I've definitely participated a little bit this time around, and it kind of just you happen to because you get airdrop stuff and you're like, all right, I guess I'm in this. But like I didn't really participate in meme coins much last time, so I don't know a great comparison to how it felt before this time around. But my gut feeling, my guess is that it felt like it all started with Solana, and like Solana started doing really well, and then that's where very cheap to get into meme coins. The gas is so low, so people just, I think the wealth effect that was created from people making money on Solana and that bet started just, all right, let's put this into Bonk, put this into Dog with Hat, put it into memes, and I think it kind of went from there to other chains and to other people kind of speculating on memes. So I don't know. I guess that's not a great answer, but that's what it seems kind of like what's happened.
That's a really good answer. That's exactly what I was going to say. So in my opinion, it literally was just Solana as like, let's call it like a blue chip asset, skyrocketed out of left field. People were going wild. And then people looked around on Solana. Like, this is what they do. They're like, okay, cool. Solana is the main, token for Solana ecosystem. But what's like the beta of the ecosystem? Like, what's the blue chips of Solana? And there really isn't like a lot of good stuff on Solana, like good projects yet. They have yet to be built. Like, they're being built and they're now deploying whatever. But like back when this happened, there wasn't like a ton of like, oh, these are the blue chips of Solana. And so people kind of looked for that. There wasn't very much to invest into. They looked for the alts. There really wasn't much to invest into. And so they're like, oh, cool, meme coins. And they're really cheap and we can pump them out. And, I think it was kind of like one of these perfect storms where like meme coins just popped off and were like the killer use case of Solana, because people were like, oh, wow, we can, do a bunch of these transactions with these things. And because meme coins skyrocketed on Solana, everyone started saying, oh, it's meme coin season. That's the narrative. And then meme coins started skyrocketing everywhere. But it really wasn't close to like Solana caused this. It's very, it's not like all at once meme coins skyrocketed everywhere. It was, they skyrocketed on Solana. That became the narrative and it spread everywhere else. But it was really just an indicator of Solana doing well. And that's really it. That's my opinion. And it's funny that you have the same exact opinion.
I think there's an additive to it too. I think, during this period, people were seeing insane gains. And so you get KOLs who, for like engagement, are just shilling like, this trader turned $7 into $1 million. And they share that. That goes more viral. People make actual gains on it, far more than they're making on anything else. They tell people about that. It's super easy to onboard people onto like the Phantom app on their phones. So I think that like you're able to onboard people faster as well. But I also think like, people have just remained around since last cycle. So I spent a good portion of the bear market in something called the Deegan chat in the Obsidian Council.
Did you just say Deegan?
Yeah, I always say Deegan. People always tell me that when I say it out loud. I do call it Deegan.
Deegan, wow.
I know, it's degenerate. I know. But for some reason, I always call it Deegan. I don't know why. Apologies for my foul pal. Degen. But yeah, so that chat, there's been like multiple like mini meme coin seasons that like that chat inflames along with many other places. This one was just like way bigger. But you've had many ones, right? When Ordinals was coming out like a year ago or however long ago it was, things were popping off there. Everyone was trying to get on Bitcoin network to do those and shutting that network down the way they shut Solana down. So I think there's just a natural appetite for these low market cap, high return, like gambling as well. That isn't necessarily indicative of the overall market. I think when in a normal meme coin season at the end of like bull markets, you're getting retail in who doesn't know the difference and just sees a dog. I think that may be the difference now, whereas now it's just like degens in here like gambling.
Okay, so top signals check. I mean, obviously, I don't think we're anywhere close to a top, but Coinbase App Store rank is 281, so that's a pretty good one. Either you guys got any texts from friends being like, hey, Noah, I know you're really into crypto. What altcoin should I be buying? Or like, I heard this is a good altcoin. You should buy it. Anything like that?
No, not really. Other than like one family member saying like, oh, I heard Bitcoin did something. They're talking about the ETF, but they don't really know. So I think that was the only thing that got circulated a decent amount to normal people. But other than that, and that was a little while ago. Nothing over here.
What about you, Harley?
No, nothing recently. I had the same thing when the ETF happened. My mother-in-law asked if she said, I heard Bitcoin went public. So that was a pretty good line from her. I was like, yeah, kind of it did. But no, I haven't heard
either. Ghost town. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody's interested in it. If I start talking about it, people's eyes glaze over and they're like, I don't want to hear it.
I'm super happy about that because we talked about like our actions during the bear market. And I told you, like, I feel like I accumulated, but I didn't do it enough. And like, I feel like I'm getting like a second chance right now, like a breather to like catch up a little bit. So
yeah, I've been doubling down on some alts. I'm like really bullish on a couple of them. I'm like I was like shaking the other day. I was like, this is the one. This is going to be my 1000X. We'll see. This is it. I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping. Okay, what about mentions of the super cycle? You heard anyone saying, hey, I will bet somebody right now. I think you guys probably both agree with me, but if you didn't, I'd bet you that by the end of this cycle, people are going to be saying, because BlackRock, et cetera, whatever, are involved in the space, crypto is not going to have any more 4-year cycles, and we're going to only go up from here. The 4-year cycle is gone. It's done. We're going to have, they're not going to call it the super cycle, but they're going to call it something else. But institutional capital means that we're no longer going to have intense bear markets. It's going to be the gist of what they're going to say. Have you guys heard anything like that? Anything like that circulating?
Yeah, I mean, I think because of the ETFs, people are like, oh, it's going to be different this time. We got ETF money kind of, it doesn't move as fast. It's going to stay around for a long time. So that's going to start things. I've even seen Suzu. I don't know if you've seen, he's been on some different podcasts and he's kind of going around again, doing some rounds. And I've seen him kind of talk, he didn't necessarily say it's going to be a super cycle, but they're kind of talking about, oh yeah, you said it was super cycle last time. What do you think this time? He's like, yeah, I mean, maybe. So I think that narrative is definitely going to come back.
I just thought of a new top signal, which is like our villains rising. That's what I'm gonna call it because that sounds really cool. But like every cycle, that I can't spell on here apparently. Every cycle, that it's the top. When like the villains take the center stage, like they literally take over everything. You have like the Richard Harts. Like all these people that end up going to prison, the Sam Bankman-Frieds, like they end up taking over like all of crypto Twitter. They take all the mind share. What was the guy from Time Wonderland? That guy, Danielle. Danielle says, yeah.
Sesta?
Do we have any villains? Also, because I want to invest in whatever the next hex is because that thing printed money last cycle. So any Ponzi's early forming or any villains you guys see kind of rising to power?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really good top signal though, because it's like, I think crypto is kind of built, like it does really well with like kind of cult followings. Like someone becomes like this cult leader and everyone's like, yeah, just do whatever he says. So I have heard a person or two say, what if Ansem, on Twitter becomes the next person like that, which it would be really sad. Like, I hope that he doesn't, turn to that. But you never know. You never know. That's what the hard thing about these people is you don't know who ends up having bad motives or ends up being that person. But I hope it's not Ansem. But I did hear some people say maybe Ansem's the next villain.
Yeah, maybe I should call it villains and cult leaders rising, because I'd say like Ansem's not a bad guy. Right now, like he's like, at least as of right now, if somebody's like listening to this in the future and he becomes a bad guy, I don't know. But right now he seems like just a normal guy. He's got a lot of attention. But yeah, it's like villains and cult leaders. And these guys like dictate the market. And they're usually the villains when they launch something scammy. And he hasn't really done that. So we'll call him a cult leader.
Did you guys know that like Ansem is actually like taking all the money he earns and giving it away to altruistic things?
Is this true? No, okay.
No.
Okay, cool.
He drives the Toyota.
If you guys hear of anything, let me know. I'm not even joking. I know this is stupid. I'll probably get hate for this. But whatever the next hex is, I won't talk about it. I will not talk about it on Twitter or whatever, but my money will be in that thing. I know people that stuck like $1,000 in it, turned into 400K. And I just know Ponzi's do well eventually. And I want to be in the Ponzi's. And then sell before.
So you want to be in the Ponzi, and then what? You're gonna get out before the music stops?
Yeah, I think I'm smarter than everyone else, which probably means I'm not. Okay, well, spicy news of the. Actually, before I get to that, I want to talk about you, Noah. Okay, so this is like totally not normally part of our normal agenda. We were talking about this before we started the show. You have a weird thing on Farcaster called Hot Potato. I've tried to join it. I don't know what I'm doing. I have 2 actions on my Farcaster that say pass the potato. I don't know which of the 2 to click, or if I'm supposed to click both, or if I just actually mess it up. But like, what is this thing on Farcaster, and what have you built?
Yeah, so I mean, I've really got into Farcaster. I'm sure people have heard of it at least by now. It's kind of like it's kind of like a Twitter, but it's supposed to be like kind of like a decentralized Twitter. A lot of crypto kind of activity is happening there now. Degen was a meme coin that really popped off, kind of coming out of Farcaster, and that's also probably why like Farcaster is getting a lot of more attention as well. There's a lot more projects being built around there, and so it's I think it's just a cool place because imagine, in crypto we all have like these public wallet addresses, but no one really knows who you are, and it's kind of hard to connect to real people. And so what Farcaster does is it kind of connects your social graph, like your social persona, your profile, and the activities you're doing on a social media app, kind of like Twitter, and it actually connects your wallets to that. And so you actually kind of can have interactions that are more social, but then on chain as well. And so, yeah, like Farcaster is just kind of allowed for very interesting interactions on chain where you can like do things, you can make transactions right within the app, and they've made it really easy for developers to build on top of them with these things called frames, and now they have actions, which that's what kind of Hot Potato was kind of built through. So yeah, it was kind of just an experiment with Hot Potato to see like, okay, could I make something interesting using some of these tools that Farcasters allowed for devs to do? And you can basically just like pass a potato to your friend on Farcaster, and then you got this burning hot potato that you need to get out of your hands because it's gonna burn you. And then it's kind of a little competition of who's had the potato the longest. So yeah, I've had some fun with that. It kind of went viral on Farcaster, and there's been over 3,000 people that have passed this hot potato around. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of playing around with it. I have some more ideas of how I'm going to make it better, but it's been fun over on Farcaster land.
Can you imagine if it like goes even more viral and like for the rest of your life, everyone's like, oh, you're the potato guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like a joke. I like, even to me, I'm like, okay, this is just like this silly little game. And then like I had like some like VCs like reach out and be like, hey, I like hot potato, and I couldn't just not like laugh. Like they're reaching out about hot potato. I was like, okay, this is crazy.
It feels a lot like Facebook, like Facebook early days of like, you're like the new Zynga and all these. I mean, you should build some kind of cool game on there, like beyond like Hot Potato is your alpha product, and then you become the new Zynga, because Zynga probably would have kept dominating.
Well, that was actually kind of my theory, is that there's going to be the next Zynga like there was on Facebook, but on Farcaster. And the cool thing with Farcaster is that they technically they can't rug you because it's all like open, it's public how it's built on the Farcaster protocol. So I think there's going to be something like Zynga built on top of it, and so that's why I was kind of playing around with Hot Potato. And I guess it's I've been spending a lot of time in Farcaster. I think it also brings kind of this idea that like it doesn't feel like it's it still feels like a bull market there in Farcaster world. And I think this is what happens in crypto in different niches. Like maybe it feels like this in Solana still, I'm not sure. But like in different places that have had like a wealth effect, which has definitely happened because Degen went to a 2 billion market cap or recently. It's interesting to see like the wealth effect of all these different projects that now can bounce out around that because the money's kind of flowing around. And so in Farcaster right now, like there's so much stuff happening, and it definitely still feels like a bull market. It's like we're in the raging bull market still, even though it doesn't, people aren't feeling like that everywhere.
Okay, my favorite game on Facebook back in the day was called Ninja Wars. And I forget what you did, but you like trained up your ninjas to be like black belts. And then you like send them to fight your friends' ninjas. And if yours ninjas won, you could like level them up more or whatever. It's just endless, like kind of like grinding for levels. But you should make Ninja Wars for Farcaster. If you even had something remotely like resembling the Zynga of like Farcaster, as soon as game like crypto gaming hits, dude, you're gonna go to like 2 billion market cap and be like this like Farcaster overlord, and you'll just. Well, cool. Hey, we'll keep up to date on that. Spicy news of the week. First one is XLayer launching. Have you guys heard of XLayer?
No.
Okay. Well, this is why I'm bringing the news right now. Okay. So like, like Base, Coinbase has Base. Okay. And like the narrative is like, oh, cool. Coinbase has like, whatever, 100 million users, and, they're going to bring them on chain via Base. And so we're really bullish on Base. Well, XLayer. Okay. So think of that as like the US, right? In the US, Coinbase is huge. But outside the US, we have Binance. Binance has BNB chain. And BNB chain's like, we're going to bring on all the Binance users on chain. And they've actually, even today, somehow Binance is like thriving. It doesn't make any sense. BNB is doing great. To me, in my like US brain, I'm not like seeing it, but a ton of traction on there still. Well, XLayer is kind of like that too. Okay. So it's like an outside the US, the rest of the world, launched by OKX. They have 50 million users. And they're launching their own chain called XLayer, and they're going to be launching it as part of Polygon's AgLayer. So this is going to be kind of like this pretty big deal for them. But it's kind of just another take of like, now we have all these exchanges launching their own chains and then onboarding their users from these exchanges on chain. So it's like, I don't know, pretty bullish, and maybe something people should be paying attention to as much as they're paying attention to Base and BNB and stuff like that.
Yeah, OKX is actually pretty. I actually I forgot the name of it. I think I have engaged with this. I downloaded the OKX wallet, and because I know they had some airdrop going for this or something like that. But OKX is actually like every event you go to, they have something big going on. Like I went to their party at the Consensus in Austin. It was sweet. Best cocktails, like everything. And their marketing, like they're super aggressive with all their marketing and like high quality video. So it's exciting to see what they can do globally with that.
Cool. We'll move on. The next one, Biden's 44.6% capital gains tax and taxing unrealized gains at 25%. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I haven't looked much into it, but I don't like the sound of that, I guess. I mean, it's not like an official thing, right? Like, it's just him putting something out there, and then people got to vote on it, right?
Yeah, I always take it as like, like they say, have you heard of the term extreme anchoring?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a sales tactic, and it works really, really well. It's like a psychology hack. It's like if you want to sell a package to somebody for like, say you want somebody to buy something for like $1,000. Well, you don't pitch $1,000. First, you say, "Hey, I have this package for whatever. This is a $10,000 package, and that's my big one. And then my medium one over here, that's $5,000. And I got my low one at $1,000. Now your $1,000 package seems really cheap relative to the other packages, and so
you can meet in the middle.
Yeah, and so the idea is like I always assume that like they throw out these insane things like 25% unrealized capital gains or unrealized gains and 44.6 capital gains because they don't want to do that, but they might want to take the 20% capital gains and say, hey, okay, fine, that's maybe too much, but maybe I'll take it up to like 25% or 30%. How does that sound, guys? And so, in my opinion, it's more like a little bit of extreme anchoring to get like maybe a 1% unrealized capital gains and a little bit of a capital gains push up.
Yeah, I think it's the way to get it in. Right? Because they are anchoring it. But once you have it at any percentage, 1%, from there, it's just a generational thing. Like, how far do you move it? But the thing about it, I was pretty like inflamed when I first read that. I was very upset because I'm like, 25% on unrealized. So I'll have to sell some to pay the unrealized where I'll get a 44% tax on that. But I guess the 25% unrealized is like, you have to like have a net worth of $100 million or more. Which I'm not currently worried about. Maybe in a few weeks I'll talk over that. But
it'll impact you regardless. So like that people having to sell their stocks that have $100 million in it, like that's going to impact the market and all your stock values and crypto values are going to go down. Like it bleeds through the rest of the market. Just because you don't have $100 million doesn't mean it won't massively affect your life. It's just like in general, it just is an inefficient thing. Like the governments don't efficiently use that money. They're just going to use it to do stupid stuff. It's not like you're going to get like way better roads or way better infrastructure or bridges and stuff like that. Like it's just going to go to more government bureaucracy, like expanding all that stuff into pointless areas of our life and slowing down more regulation. Like I'd be bullish on it if like the government's like, hey, we're going to actually do something useful with this. And they showed that and they already operated like that, but they don't. They waste the majority of the money they get. They're going in, pushing the country into massive debt. We have all this inflation. And I'd rather, honestly, that money be in the hands of entrepreneurs who could maybe solve some of these problems through AI, robotics, or whatever. And like maybe that'll improve our output in the US so that we can actually get out of some of these situations rather than like, the government's not going to do anything useful with that money. Literally, there's no way they do anything remotely useful with any of that money.
It could just go to our debt or something. Like maybe that's why they're raising it is our debt issue.
But like, are they going to really put it towards the debt? And like, the debt's just going to keep going up. Like, at what point does the government wake up and be like, oh, we're going to be fiscally responsible today? Like, we're going to.
Yeah.
No, our debt payments have exceeded, because we used to say like, the military or defense spending was like our number one thing. But I think, and I can't remember exactly, I was watching this guy who no one showed up. It was in Senate. No one showed up. There's like 5 people at this thing. This guy's giving the most like laid out, like, here's the no nonsense of what we're looking at. And our spending on our debt to pay back debt interest has become like our 2 or 3 number item. Like, It was something insane like that. And it's funny, like, I think many Americans have this feeling of like, there's something wrong, right? Like they're not doing things right. Getting into crypto Ponzi season really shows you what you're actually participating in. It's a tax token system where they're inefficient with what they get, right? Like it is so similar. It's kind of creepy.
It is. And the unrealized gains, like, does that mean like if your house goes up $100,000 in value, you have to pay taxes on that? And like, how are you going to do that? You're going to sell your house?
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, it's insane. It's literally so crazy and so insane. We're going to move on though. The developers of Samurai, I think you pronounce it Samurai, were arrested. Did you guys hear about this? The Bitcoin like mixer?
We came here for the news.
Okay. It's kind of similar to Tornado Cash in a way. but it's like a Bitcoin mixer. So it's like where Tornado Cash is maybe, I think you could do Bitcoin on it too. I don't remember. But this was like for Bitcoin, it's a Bitcoin wallet mixer. These guys were like good guys. They weren't, as far as I know, they weren't doing anything illegal. They were just making it so you could have private transactions with your Bitcoin, which I know. I believe privacy is a human right. Like you should be able to have private transactions. But the government doesn't seem to agree with that. And these guys have been arrested and labeled as criminals. They're going to court. It's all kinds of crazy stuff just for creating privacy software. And I'm just interested in your guys' takes on that.
They were arrested by what government?
The U.S. government. They're like, they were extradited. Oh, maybe I'm wrong about that. I think so. I think they got, they're like being brought to the U.S. and charged from the U.S. government because I think it comes from the fact that like North Korea keeps hacking things and then like mixing their money, and then the U.S. government doesn't like that, which obviously that makes sense. But at the same time, like bad people do bad stuff with the internet and cars and all kinds of things, right? Like doesn't mean these guys should be arrested because they're allowing people to have privacy. Privacy is not inherently a bad thing. North Korea is doing bad things, but privacy isn't inherently bad.
Yeah, I agree with your take, and it will be interesting to see. Like, I'm sure there's going to be like, legal stuff, and like things will go to court, and like they'll have to like figure this stuff out at some point, and hopefully it doesn't just continue to go that way. There'll be like a legal battle around it, but yeah, it's definitely sad to see. It's not like what you want to see.
I don't know. I on some level disagree with you guys, despite what I just said a minute ago about the U.S. government. I think like having your Bitcoin wallet is great and all that stuff, but like I think there's some level of like lack of privacy once you're like going on and off chain. Like, what's the point of going through a mixer if you're just keeping it on chain anyways? Right? Like, unless you're trying to send it somewhere where you don't have to pay taxes or something like that. Like, I think are we going for like a full anarcho like state of like crypto, or are we trying to integrate in a system? Like, and to me, it's like that's just skirting around trying to be in that system like completely. So it is a bit dangerous. I don't know about throwing them in jail, but I just have questions, I guess.
Okay, think about it like this. So you kind of have a skewed perception because you grew up in the modern world. We have, credit cards and all these digital payments, but for most of history, you had cash. And people would use cash, and we survived. We were totally fine. It's not like criminals were out of control. People used cash. They had, privacy with their transactions, and that was normal. And it was not until like modern times where like we have government surveillance of every single thing you do. And okay, let me ask you this. Historically, like what happens when the government gets more and more power? Do they tend to become really, really good and produce utopias, or do they tend to eventually become really, really corrupted and do bad things?
As long as they send me a stimulus check, I'm pretty good with whatever they want to do.
I would say governments tend to kind of do selfish or bad things that hurt their citizens and don't benefit them, and that the more power that you take out of the government's hands, the better. Now, obviously, nobody wants terrorists in North Korea getting funded, and that is definitely a bad thing. But there is like a ton of the privacy protocols now, are like the open market, the private market's already innovating, and they're saying, hey, we're going to allow it to be private, but like the code knows, like the code's able to say, hey, this is sanctioned address, and we're not going to allow these funds to be privacy swapped to this address. And so like people don't know, but the code's able to be like, okay, don't do this. And so there have been solutions built. I just think the idea of arresting these people just for building something privacy, I don't like everything on chain being tracked for me. I don't want everyone to just copy me. That was like a big problem last cycle, is like I had a lot of people that would just copy everything I did.
So I agree on the privacy stuff. And that's why I said, like, I don't know about them going to jail for it, but, and I get how it used to be, like the old cash days. But this is what I mean about the conflict with the state eventually, right? It's like, if you're going to live in this world, the state's going one direction. It is going towards like less privacy, right? Whether it's CBDCs or like tech, like many different ways. We know that they're all over us, right? Like I don't even feign privacy in anything I do anymore. So it is a bit of comfort with that. But on like that philosophical level, like if you're constantly like, I don't want you to know who I am, and I'm not going to like abide with it, and the system that we actually live under is saying something different very strongly, you will have eventually like an incredibly strong conflict between those two things. But I do agree. I'd rather just like live my life and nobody knows what I'm doing. Like that's much simpler for me. But I'm just saying.
I see what you're saying. You're trying to say there's maybe a balance, and I agree. That's like the things, like I said, the code that maybe like again, I think everyone agree. We don't want money going to criminals. We don't want money going to terrorists. We don't want money going to a bunch of people trafficking drugs. There's not a person I know besides probably drug traffickers which I don't know them probably, that would disagree with that. So I think society all agrees on that, but also I think we can have those things and not have the government have this insane amount of insight into people's lives and, control over people. All right. Okay, cool. So moving on, what's one thing that today is consensus or a widely held belief in the crypto markets that you believe is wrong and will actually prove the opposite by the end of the cycle? So like maybe think of a category of people are like, hey, this is dead, but you actually think, no, it's not. Or people think, hey, this isn't important, but you're like, no, it is important. Or people aren't paying attention to whatever thing, and you're like, ooh, that's going to be huge by the end of the cycle. What's one thing you think today that's like a consensus view that might be wrong?
That's hard.
Yeah.
I had to think about that one. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is that, like, kind of what we were talking about, like with the meme coins, is that, everyone's kind of, they were, at least the last couple of weeks, like everything was going into meme coins. It's like, all right, there's nothing really else that's valuable in crypto. We'll just go trade on these meme coins. I think that, like, as the cycle continues, I think that we'll kind of bounce back to like some pretty like valuable projects that are, actually doing stuff in the crypto space. And that's what I hope, because I want crypto to be something that's actually creating value and really beneficial. So I think that as things continue, I think we'll kind of bounce back to some valuable projects, and those will kind of start to get more of the attention. And so I don't know if that's something that everyone agrees with or not.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I've heard so many takes on like, there's like a lot of people that are like, tokens are pointless. Everything's a meme coin, so we might as well trade meme coins. And I agree with you that like, I think that's a bad take, and that by the end of the cycle, people will be like, oof, that was kind of stupid.
I'd say one that it's really hot right now is like, it's consensus at least among users, is the runes on Bitcoin, right? Like people are saying like, it's insane provenance, like having early runes, and they're going to be huge this cycle, and you can use it. And I think it's overblown for what they're going to end up being at the end of the cycle. I think you will have like a couple cool projects, the same way you did with like ordinals. And I know people still use ordinals, but I think that's like such a layer down. Like, I don't think it's going to be as big as people are saying it's going to be. I think DeFi on Bitcoin will be bigger, honestly. But I'd say that's a bit overblown.
But DeFi on Bitcoin is going to use runes and stuff, right? Like, what doesn't that depend on runes, being what token standards are and how those things come about?
Well, as I understood, like it was going to be like L2s on Bitcoin interacting, like locking up your Bitcoin to secure like other networks, right? So basically earning a yield on your Bitcoin through an L2 on Bitcoin for locking up, creating like security for their chains, rather than like using a protocol to create like tokens on the Bitcoin network. But I see what you're saying about it tying in. But as far as I understand runes now, it's just been about memeability, and there hasn't been any protocols built. But if there's more to it than that, I could be wrong in a few months. But how I see it is like, it's a bit overblown for what I know it is right now.
Well, my take that I think is consensus right now that I disagree with would be moving on. My take would be NFTs. So I think a lot of people have discounted NFTs this cycle. I've seen that over and over. NFTs are dead. They're never coming back. All the NFT like channels and influencers are all like no viewership. Nobody's paying attention to them. Nobody cares. The NFT conferences, people don't even talk about NFTs. That's how dead people think it is. And I actually think this is completely wrong. I think NFTs are going to be just as vibrant this cycle as they were last cycle. I think the evidence of that is like we just saw a punk sell for $16 million. So obviously there's still demand for these things. It's not like they've all gone to zero. I just think a lot of the old NFTs are dead. You still see a lot of NFT activity on ordinals and that kind of stuff. And then Mad Lads have done pretty well in Solana. I think what it is wealth effect, kind of like we talked about earlier, Noah, which is with Solana, we saw a mini preview of what will happen this cycle, which is, Solana went way up, and then money tried to go down to the blue chips. There just happened to be not really any, and then the altcoins happened to not be any. Then the NFTs skyrocketed like Mad Lads, and then we had Ponzi season. it repeated the same exact cycle we normally see. And so I think we're going to still see that. We just haven't seen the wealth effect into ETH yet. But once ETH skyrockets, it doesn't have to even go that much higher, but for the massive wealth effect, then we see the alts go up, and then we have the wealth effect where people are like, okay, cool. I'm going to flex. I'm going to buy NFTs. They're going to buy a bunch of NFTs and then to flex, and then those will go up, and then other people will buy them to flip, and then it'll go up higher. And then, Ponzi season, same thing. So I think NFTs actually going to do really well this cycle, and that people are wrong about that, and they're definitely not dead. Plus gaming.
So do you think that Bored Apes are going to go back up? Like, I think they've gotten down to like 12 ETH, and they're probably really hurting.
Okay. I would say Bitcoin of NFTs is punks, obviously. So that's why you see it going up, selling first. I don't know what Bored Apes are. Are they the Cardano of NFTs? Are they the Litecoin of NFTs or the Bitcoin Cash of NFTs? Like, it's kind of hard to tell. But I would guess as a whole, most of the old collections will die and not be really relevant this cycle, and it'll be a lot of new ones. And so just kind of like the shiny token syndrome with normal crypto, it'll be like shiny NFT syndrome. Like, oh, cool, this NFT is going to go up because it's new. And so that's kind of my take, is it's going to be a lot of new ones, and the old ones won't do as well.
I thought that as well, but I don't know. I don't get the sentiment as much that people think that NFTs are dead in the crypto space. Outside, yeah, like the monkey pictures aren't here anymore.
I do. It's ETH NFT specifically. I get that a lot. Where I think people are like kind of exploring them in other ecosystems when you see wealth effects there, like Cosmos and Bitcoin and stuff like, and Solana. But ETH ones, like, nobody seems to talk about, nobody seems to care. And again, if you look at the NFT influencers, they're just dead. Like, their videos could get no views. Their audiences aren't there. And just how often do you see people talking about NFTs on Twitter? But look at last cycle, and it was just like everyone. That's all they talked about. It was annoying. So, yeah. All right, take of the week. Vance Spencer said this, and I thought it was really cool. The NASDAQ bubble during the 1990s happened with 6.5% 10-year. The roaring 1920s happened when margin interest rates were double digits. And his point is that, like, hey, high interest rates don't mean that we can't have a crazy, insane bull run. They're not like a precursor to, like, that's impossible, because we've had way higher interest rates and way crazier bull runs.
You're giving us hope.
Yeah. What were the interest rates like leading up to those, though? Because higher interest rates used to be a standard.
Were they lowered?
Were they lowered, like, so relative to what people were used to, or were they like rising at the time, or were they like staying stagnant?
I don't know. That is a good question, but I think so maybe you can make a point of, like, you're saying that, hey, maybe the lowering of interest rates is a needed precursor, and maybe that's true. I don't know, but I think his point is, like, just because they're at a high level that alone wouldn't mean you can't have it, because obviously we've seen that you can. But maybe you're right. Maybe you need that, like, influx of, like, liquidity. I don't know. I kind of have this feeling we're going to get that anyway, even if it's not from interest rates getting lowered. Like, the liquidity will find a way. Janet Yellen's going to do something, because kind of leading up to, kind of going to need to. So, all right, last question. What token or project are you most excited about this week?
So I've been most excited about, and this has been for the last couple of months now, actually, I've been most excited about Pendle. Because I feel like Pendle is one of those DeFi protocols that, it is kind of a newer thing this cycle. And it's really done well with all of the restaking tokens and just ways to make some good yield on top of what's going on in the ecosystem. And what I like is it is like a place to trade. Like, it is a marketplace where people are trading on yield. And so it's like there's just a lot of yield and fees and things that I think can go on there that I think that will become a very, like, big project that will stay around for a while. It's kind of like the Uniswap of yield or something like that. So I really like Pendle. I use it a lot myself. And so, yeah, that's my big project.
Dude, I love Pendle. Harley, did you get into Pendle so that was like one of the early projects I researched in our community, and it's up, like, it's almost 14x since we jumped into it. But I'm curious, did you get into it, Harley, or no?
No, I thought Pendle was just an airdrop thing.
No. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it has done so.
Okay, cool. I missed the 14x. Cool. Cool. I'm glad you missed it.
Well, okay. What sucks is, like, even when I got in it, there was other people like, yeah, I've already made a 10x on Pendle, and I'm like, oh, I missed it with this one, but then it went up 14x. And so who knows? Maybe from here it goes up another 20x. Like that's what I'm saying.
When
Like
I'll buy.
the biggest gains in the altcoin sector are not here yet. I think most people are vastly underestimating that. When I got into Luna, it was I put $760 in, and it was at a 50 million market cap, and everyone thought like that was big at the time. Anyone could have bought it. I mean, it was just sitting there. I put $760 in. It's not a lot of money. That turned into over $150,000, and I took out like 20K along the way too. So like pretty early on. So it could have gotten a lot bigger than that. So my point is, it's still so early. It's still so early. What about you, Harley? What tokens or projects are you excited about right now?
If we're looking at big caps, being honest, and it's like a super basic answer, like I'm just super amped on Bitcoin right now. I'm just like, and it's not, I know it's just like the first one, but I'm just going back to my old roots. Like seeing Bitcoin like floating around, like I'm just like looking at the price. One, I'm trading perpetuals on it, so I'm staring at it a lot, but I'm just like, it guides the rest of the market so much that like I'm just like rooting so hard for Bitcoin, right? And it's my biggest holding, like I just have more Bitcoin than I have anything else. It's kind of like my cult, so honestly, like I'm super amped on Bitcoin today. Gun to my head.
Dude, I'm amped on Bitcoin. I don't hold any Bitcoin, weirdly, but I am also amped on it because same thing, wealth effect. That thing, it like Bitcoin goes up, that's good for everything. Same thing with ETH. ETH goes up, that's good for everything. Those two assets specifically, when they go up, it pours into everything else. It's amazing. I'd say I'm really excited about this week Index. You've heard of Index, Harley. Have you ever heard of it, Noah?
I think so. I think maybe I've heard you talk about it potentially.
Yeah, it's like Index Coop. I'm really excited about crypto indexes in general. Like think of like the S&P 500 kind of products, but in crypto. To like think of like a Solana index, so you don't have to really know what to buy on Solana, or like a DeFi index, Arbitrum index, crypto AI, crypto gaming. Think of all these like verticals that people have struggled to understand like what to buy, and just how much simpler it'd be to be like, I want to allocate into crypto, and I want to allocate into these narratives that I think are important. But I don't want to have to care about what tokens to buy and keep track of all that. So I'm just going to buy an index. So in my head, I'm like, well, that's going to be big because it's really big in the traditional financial markets because it makes things simpler, and inherently people want simpler, and it's less risky too. And actually indexes typically outperform the rest of the market as well. So those three reasons. And in crypto, it's infinitely more complex. There's a lot more turnover quicker turnover with a lot of tokens. So it's like if you jump into Litecoin 1 in 2017, it might do good, but in 2021, it doesn't. You know what I mean? And now it's like, who knows what it's doing. So it's good to have somebody like actively paying attention to these things if you're not. So in my mind, I'm like, man, crypto on-chain indexes are going to be huge. Index is kind of like the main player that I see, but they also have these new things called PRTs, which are like product revenue tokens. But they have like this, I call it their infinity gauntlet, because they essentially get to do unlimited airdrops. Like every project stream is like, hey, how do I incentivize people to come like use like TVL and all that kind of stuff? And it's like airdrops, but you only get to do it once, and you can't really do it after that. You get one good airdrop, hopefully people stick around. PRTs are crazy cool because every time they launch an index, if you deposit your ETH into the index to add liquidity, you get what's called a PRT, product revenue token, specific to that index. That PRT entitles you to a portion of the revenue from that index. So if you do 10% of the total liquidity provided for the index to jumpstart it, you get around 10% of the total PRTs, which entitles you to around 10% of the total revenue. So if that becomes the next S&P 500, you're Chase Bank over there. You're like, raking in the capital because you're making a lot of money, right? And then the cool thing about the PRTs they're tradable. So you can go sell those. They can get a premium on the open market. They can, be worth more or less depending on how people's outlook on that specific index. But that's like that index. They go to launch the next index. Guess what? They get to incentivize with PRTs for that index. And they can just do it over and over again. So it's like unlimited airdrops. That gets me bullish.
So it sounds like you found your Ponzi that you were looking for. Just kidding. You're just kidding.
An asset within an asset within an asset.
I wouldn't call it Ponzi, but potentially a really good one. But yeah, the index token also gets a portion of the PRTs. So like that goes into the treasury. They get a portion of the PRTs as well. And again, it's just like the dynamics of why it works is like the user is taking on an inherent risk by investing into that index early, and they are making an assumption that it will do good, but it doesn't have to do good, right? So like they're betting on an outcome. But I think you could endlessly have people bet on narratives, etc. And so they're going to be bootstrapping all of these indexes, and that's only good for the token. So in my mind, it's like a 30 million market cap. Nice. But I'm also pumped about Pendle and Bitcoin. So I think you guys all have good picks. Well, as always, none of this was investment advice. None of this was me or Noah or Harley telling you to buy anything or that you should buy anything or that you should do anything with your money. This is, you should always do your own research. Act like an adult. Put your big boy pants on and go, do you. Go do you. And don't go just whining because you listened to a podcast and threw your life savings into something that, we talked about and didn't think it through, because that's a stupid decision. You shouldn't do that. If Arnold Schwarzenegger jumps out of a burning building, with his shirt off, that doesn't mean you should do it. That's a movie, okay? That's a movie.
I can do it, though.
If he becomes a cop working in a kindergarten, that doesn't mean you should do that, okay? That's just like, it's just a weird thing to think, okay? It's just a podcast. We're just talking about things we're talking about. I lose money. Noah loses money. He, Harley definitely loses money.
True.
All the time.
That's all I do. It's my habit.
Anyway, okay, cool. This has been great. And as always, and I'm not going to end it with the "Stay hard, my friends." Should we do that? We need an outro. That's the hard thing about this episode is we need like a cool outro. And I've been trying to think about.
You didn't like the "Stay hard"?
Well, I want to sound like the guy that's like, "Stay thirsty, my friends," but I don't have his cool accent. You know what I'm talking about? The Corona guy or whatever, the most interesting man.
Yeah.
I want him to say
the Dos Equis man.
Yeah. Imagine him ending this episode and being like, "Stay hard, my friends," and you'd be like,
"Stay
wow.
hard, my friends."
I'll think of a cool one later.
I wonder if is he live? We can get a cameo.
Yeah, we'll just insert him every time we try to end the episode, and he'll be like, "Stay hard, my friends." I bet AI could do it for us soon, or if we find like a guy that sounds like that to join the podcast, just for the ending. Anyway, cool. Catch you guys later.